So today I decided to do kind of something new, and I decided to do a tier list for every single one of the Left 4 Survival zombies. And I probably will do one on guns and stuff like that, but I know the zombie's the best, and I've talked it through. I think I know where every single one should go, and yeah. But before I get into the tier list, I feel it important to explain every single tier. So, S tier is the zombies that are so broken, if the zombie gets chosen, it's pretty much, it could turn the tides of a match, for the survivors. If the zombies are losing by quite a bit in a death match, and then that zombie gets chosen, it's just gonna overpower every single one of the survivors, just can completely turn the tides of the match. Definitely needs huge nerfs, so yeah. A tier is zombies that are very good, definitely a zombie that if you have the money you should spend the money on. They probably need some slight nerfs, and definitely are pretty much very recommended picks. B tier is zombies that are pretty much just evenly balanced out. These zombies don't really, they're good, they don't need any buffs or nerfs, or they might need slight buffs or slight nerfs, but they're pretty even. C tier zombies that are zombies who are better than the default zombies, but but are missing a few things, or genuinely just don't have the best skills and attributes. And then you have D tier, which is the basic zombie. Now, I don't think that the basic zombie is one of those, you pick the basic zombie and you're just dang it, I might as well let a survivor kill me, I just want to switch to a different zombie, I'm just done. I think the default zombie, you can play with it. You can play with pretty much any zombie here. Especially, you can use the zombie on hill-like terrain, get a few good kills, maybe pawn it out against survivors, but pretty much any other zombie you use is just going to be a more buffed, kind of bigger, just better than the default zombie. Except for the crawler. Now, I'm going to explain why I don't think the crawler is better than, or why I think it's equal. The crawler cannot really climb up staircases or hills, which multiple maps have staircases or hills, and hills can definitely help a zombie. Just survivors don't know what to do when a zombie is just jumping off a hill, trying to attack them. It's kind of just, it's weird for the survivors to have to deal with. They're more used to shooting at range, and yeah. So not having that mechanic, it isn't. You can, no matter even, I don't care that it's faster. It still allows to spawn D tier. That and multiple maps have staircases that if a survivor's just up there, no crawlers can even get to them. So the next one is, to start off C tier, is probably going to be a controversial opinion, the Francesco, or aka Darkness. The Francesco's only power is invisibility. That's all. And it's better than the default zombie, but once you hit someone with your you immediately don't become invisible anymore. And you can't immediately go back into being invisible and try to run away. No, it takes time to recharge. So it definitely, but when you do hit an enemy, they do kind of their view definitely shrinkens, and they can only see a small area around them. The one issue of that is if you want to attack as a Francesco, you gotta go hit the survivor, which requires you to get close to them. So you pretty much, that ability just becomes useless when you're just trying to get to the survivor, but you can't. Or, God, what am I even saying anymore? But pretty much, if you want to go hit the survivor, you pretty much just, the blank ability that kind of just, it limits their vision, becomes completely useless, because to go attack them, they're going to end up seeing you. And then from there, it's not too hard for them to figure out where you are and kill you. And it can be shocking, but genuinely, and like any survivors who have played the game for a bit, maybe have learned what some good guns are and what, can pretty much counter the Francesco. Now this is definitely my most controversial pick. I think the Hunter is a C tier. Now let me explain. The Hunter is a class which has this ability called Leap. It's an ability that can let you travel a far distance in a very short amount of time. Pretty much, it's like it's like teleportation, but not like, but you actually have to leap. Now, and if you hit an enemy with it, they can't do anything to get out of it. They're stuck beneath you. A teammate can kill you while you're on top of them, and if they have a helper, like little assistance, they can easily counter you. The one issue with that, though, is you can only leap 4 times. And when you're not leaping, you pretty much have no defense. You move as slow as a brick. If you, let's say you miss, you have like 1 leap left, you try to leap at a human, you miss, you're pretty much dead. If the human knows what they're doing, you're just gone. And it can be useful if there's like 1 survivor left and the Hunter gets them. They can't do anything. But as long as there's 2 humans alive, they're fine. The Hunters, pretty much teamwork is the biggest counter to the Hunters, and that's what a lot of any survivor is going to be trying to do, is work alongside the team. And when that's the Hunter's biggest counter, it kind of just becomes a C tier. The next one, the Bloater. The Bloater is kind of like a basic zombie, but I think it has a bit more defense. I could be wrong on that, and I think its attack might do a bit more damage. But other than that, it can spit some acid on opponents, which will deal a bit of damage, like not too much. Like I think it's just like 20 or something. Like it's not that much damage. Which like it will cover up the enemy's screen, so it's kind of like the Francesco. But as soon as it's done, you can see the Bloater, and you're easily gonna kill it. But the thing is, when you kill the Bloater, it kind of has like this explosion thing, and I believe survivors can get damaged by it, and if you play your cards right, you could end up killing a survivor with your explosion. The only issue is that requires the Bloater to die, but it does kind of work as a mechanic. I think it's kind of cool. And so yeah, it can be used kind of effectively, but other than that, C tier. The next one is the Spitter. Now, the Spitter is pretty much just like improved zombie. Like its attack does a tiny bit more damage. I think it's a tiny bit more faster than the normal zombie. I think it has a bit more health, and it can spit acid. Shouldn't it be B tier? And you're right. Honestly, I'm fine if you switch it with B tier and C tier. But the one thing for me is the acid attack, like, it can be effective in some scenarios. Like, capture the flag, and if you can get an opponent into a house, and then spit the acid at the door of the house. If there's no other escape options, that human's trapped inside of the house. The one issue is the house scenario is very occasional. Like, most houses have 2 exits to them. And even if they don't, typically, unless you have more zombies with you, it can be very hard to kill. Like, the survivor can just wait out the acid to disappear. With that being said, though, it can be useful and capture the points. But other than that, just the spitting ability isn't too useful, but because it is a buffed up zombie, I'm putting it into C tier. And now we're to B tier, and this is also probably going to be sort of controversial. I'm putting the Frost Zombie into B tier. No, I think a lot of people would put the Frost Zombie into A, probably maybe even a few who say he's S, but I can explain for this one. The Frost Zombie, it's just a tank when it comes to damage. Like, no joke, there's only, like, I'm pretty sure there's only one class which can take more hits from a survivor than the Frost. Its defense is insane. Like, this thing is just hard to kill. But it does move a bit slower. And its special, which is the Frost Breath, is very, very glitchy. Heck, there's been times when I've tried to use the Frost Breath on an opponent, and it ended up hitting the wrong dude, even though the opponent was like, right... Screw you, Microsoft. Even though the opponent was like right next to me. And it's just like, it's very hard to use his Frost Breath. But the big thing is, when he does hit an opponent, it does kind of, like, the opponent does move slower. It doesn't stop the opponent from shooting at the ice zombie. But still, it can be effective and kind of delusional, and can honestly help kill the survivor, especially if there's more zombies with him. So, honestly, I'm kind of fine if you switch it between A and B tier. And especially if, like, in my opinion, if its Frost Breath gets fixed, I actually would think about putting it in S. But for now, I'm getting it into B tier. Next up is Riot. Now, I can explain on this one. First of all, I'm fine if you switch it between C and B tier. I think it would fit well in either one. But the Riot, it has a defense buff and has more health. So it's gonna take a bit more than just a few bullets to put it down. Along with that, I think it has a harder melee attack than most other zombies, or just a more damaging melee attack. It's harder than most zombies' fists, okay? Getting beaten to death with a Riot Stick is not going to be fun for the survivor. And it's for that reason that I think they deserve B tier. Now, I'm going to talk about their special ability, the Charge. And while it's kind of like the Frost Breaths, like, it doesn't necessarily, like, it's not the best special by far. But it's not like the Hunter, where you miss your final leap at an opponent. Sure, you can try to leap around a bit, but if you run out of stamina and end up in a bad spot, you're dead. However, the Riot does have a few options. It can try to run away, it can try to dodge some of the attacks. It has a few self-defense options in that scenario. Not the best, but like I said, you can switch it between C and B tier, and I'm fine. And the final one for B tier is the Tangler. And I couldn't even find, like, a fake him. I don't know how I didn't think of that. So I couldn't find, like, a good image for the Tangler, but I do think it does deserve B tier. Now, the Tangler I think it does a bit more damage. Genuinely, I think it's neutral speed. It has a bit more health. But the big thing about the Tangler is its tongue ability. Now, first of all, I'm going to say this. Hiding as the Tangler, this class can do some crazy stuff. Like, I've seen cases where I couldn't even see the Tangler, or the Tangler, but I knew it was nearby, because, like, my opponent would be getting, like, or one of the survivors would be getting pulled up by a tongue, but I couldn't even see the Tangler. And that is what makes the Tangler better than the Hunter, in my opinion, is if you're to get your opponent and, like, you can hide. You don't have to be out in the wide open when you're attacking him. Sure, it can still work, and there is actually a counter to the Tangler. And that is called the Machete. The Machete is a melee weapon which is the only counter to the Tangler. you can, using the machete, it takes a bit of time, but you can cut off the Tangler's tongue. What I learned is sometimes if a witch is good, they'll stand right near the Tangler, and then once you cut yourself free, you'll probably accidentally swipe your machete one more time. Typically, nothing too bad comes of it. But if a witch is standing right there, you accidentally end up hitting a witch. Now, I don't know if anybody knows what happens when you hit a witch, but yeah, you're kind of screwed if that scenario ends up happening. I'm gonna so yeah, I think the Tangler's B tier. Honestly, I think it could use a slight buff, like maybe the machete takes a bit longer to cut the tongue off, or maybe the machete costs a tiny bit more, but genuinely I think it's a pretty well-balanced class. Now we're to A tier, and I'm gonna start with Inferno. Now, Inferno is my favorite class, so it might be a bit of a bias here. But I feel like Inferno is insane. Now, listen. You're probably I'm gonna compare Inferno to the Bloater. Inferno has this ability called Erupt. It's an ability which it's kind of like the Bloater's explosion, except for it doesn't kill Inferno. It just explodes and then boom, anybody who's hit by it immediately gets set on fire. And fire is kind of like poison. Like, over time, you're gonna slowly die. This ability, just with its range, the fire effect afterwards, and like, I think it recharges not badly. Like, it has a kind of fast recharge. This class, in my opinion, God, sorry about that. Is probably, in my opinion, A tier. Just, it's really good. I feel like this class, I feel like a lot of people who see Inferno, they're like, okay, Inferno it doesn't have, like, any special abilities, like the Hunter, the Frost, even Francesco. Heck, the Tangler probably is better than Inferno. But I think that's wrong. I feel like the Inferno's just, its explosion ability just really is effective, and its melee attack is strong. I'm not sure if it can set people on fire. I've never really experimented around with that. I don't think it can. If it could, then it would easily be S tier. There's not even a debate to be held there. But it's also pretty fast and genuinely has quite a bit of health. There's not a negative to the Inferno, and that's why it's A tier. There's not, like nothing's bad with it. Now, I feel like the way that they could slightly nerf Inferno is maybe making the explosion be, like, have a bit less of a range, or make the fire effect be less set everything on fire-ish. But there still is 2 more left, and the Witch is the other one I'm putting into A tier. Now, this one might also raise a few questions, and I kind of am fine if you switch it to B tier. I still think it's more A tier-ish, though. The Witch, if everybody's good, and, like, if it was just the Witch versus some people, and I mean the Tame Witch, it'd probably be worse than the Zombie, because the Tame Witch can't do anything. It can't even attack. It's just there. But as soon as you see somebody shoot the Witch, it's over with for that person. The Witch, it has a lot of health. It's very fast. It can deal a lot of damage. But the one mechanic is that it has to be enraged. Now, I put this into B tier. But one thing. New players. Somebody who's new to the game probably doesn't know about the Witch and is gonna maybe happen to accidentally end up shooting the Witch. Because he thinks, oh, it's a zombie. The Witch ends up getting mad and starts to kill everybody. You see where I'm getting at here? people either will accidentally shoot the witch, mistake the witch for a different zombie, noobs don't know the witch's ability and will shoot it. The witch will just get in the way of a different zombie and they'll accidentally end up like shooting the witch, trying to shoot a different zombie. There's a lot of ways that the witch can end up getting itself hit. And once it gets hit, it's S tier. But the big thing is, once it's hit, there's not a lot, like, if it doesn't get hit, the witch is not, like, it can't do anything. And if it could hunt, like, if the witch, let's say after a bit of time, could be, like, enraged, it'd probably be S tier. But if it wasn't for its kind of state and some good players still being in the game and knowing not to shoot the witch, yeah, unfortunately it is an S tier. Now we finally have the one S tier. The Juggernaut. Now, the Juggernaut is the only character which the only ways to get it is by Robux or luck. And when the Juggernaut gets chosen, the match almost immediately goes to the zombie. Now, if it's a bad Juggernaut, then you can make the debate that, yeah, the humans can still win. But the Juggernaut can tank so much damage. Like it takes a grind. Like, every human just has to focus its attacks on the Juggernaut before everybody gets wiped out. And it's not the fastest class. Heck, it probably isn't even the most, but it does so much damage. Its boulder is an insta-kill attack, and it has so much health. This thing needs a nerf. Like, in my opinion, I would maybe not make the boulder throw ability insta-kill. Like, that's just insane. And I would maybe make it so that the Juggernaut had a bit less health. If that happened, then yeah, I would consider putting him in A tier. They also can shave off quite a bit of damage too. But yeah, if we're using if the Juggernaut was slightly nerfed, like they just made its health less, genuinely just made it not as powerful, not insta-kill special ability, even though it's hard to aim, I'd probably say, yeah, you know what, A tier. But I feel like in return for giving it all those nerfs, it'd also be a buyable. Like, maybe it'd be a really expensive zombie, but it could be buyable, maybe. But the Juggernaut, it overpowers every other zombie, and I get why you pretty much gotta get it by chance or pay Robux to get it. But I feel like the Juggernaut should be nerfed, at least. And maybe just cost the in-game currency in return for getting quite a few nerfs. And yeah. That's my full-on tier list. I'm sorry this is a bit of a long tier list, but there's a lot of stuff that I had to explain. It's not like I could have just been like, I'm putting the Hunter into C tiers because I don't like it. Yeah, no. And I probably will make an updated tier list with actual profile pictures for every single, like, the actual in-game images for them, and probably better audio quality and stuff like that. But thanks for watching this video, and yeah, I'll probably also upload a Left 4 Survival video tomorrow, so yeah, stay tuned for that. Anyway, bye. I suck at making outros.